When survivors of toxic relationships describe the frustration of being heard, they often settle on a specific image: the sensation of trying to translate their own basic emotions into a dead language their partner cannot speak. The escalation follows a predictable path. You start with logic, you move to tears and long paragraphs. Eventually, you find yourself drafting complex metaphors just to explain why a specific behavior was hurtful. This effort is driven by the assumption that the right sequence of words will finally force the clarity you're looking for. In practice, these explanations are met with blank stares, abrupt topic pivots, or a complete misinterpretation of the original point. Most people respond to this by internalizing the friction, diagnosing the silence as their own failure to articulate the problem clearly enough. This dynamic operates outside the mechanics of standard relationship friction or a lack of communication skills. Clinical observations of this pattern identify it as a specific, intentional tactic known as communication erasure. We are going to analyze the mechanics of this protocol to see how confusion is weaponized to dismantle a partner's sense of reality. The trap remains active as long as the focus stays on bridging a gap. Breaking it requires viewing these interactions as a hostile operational protocol. Basic relationship advice starts with the assumption that chronic friction is a result of innocent miscommunication. This is why I feel statements and active listening exercises often fail to stop the cycle in toxic dynamics. These interventions rely on the fallacy that the partner genuinely lacks the emotional vocabulary to understand the harm they are causing. Rather than passively failing to hear, the partner is actively scrambling the emotional data you provide. The clinical reality is that the manipulator possesses a full understanding of empathy and its vocabulary. They are defensively suppressing the willingness to use that vocabulary, despite possessing the necessary emotional capacity. Feigning ignorance provides a significant psychological advantage, as it allows them to avoid all behavioral accountability. This confusion serves as a functional shield used to deflect responsibility for the pain they cause. To understand the shield's operation, we have to look at the first frontline tactic of the erasure protocol. Deliberate misinterpretation is the real-time active mistranslation of a partner's stated vulnerability. It begins with a clear grievance, such as, "I feel ignored when you do this." The system immediately reshapes that hurt into a hostile character attack, resulting in a reply like, "So you're calling me a terrible partner?" This pivot derails the conversation. Instead of receiving emotional validation, you are forced into a semantic defense. You find yourself abandoning your own emotional needs just to manage their manufactured outrage. The next hour is spent frantically defending your word choices and proving that you aren't actually attacking them. The speed of this pivot is designed to keep you off balance. In seconds, the manipulator successfully claims the role of the victim in the interaction. Your original request for empathy has been effectively erased. Deliberate misinterpretation neutralizes vulnerability by burying it under a manufactured linguistic crisis. Prolonged exposure to these misinterpretations leads to the second tactic, emotional attrition. This tactic creates a systematic drain on your cognitive reserves over the course of years. You are trapped in a loop of explaining, re-explaining, and justifying basic human feelings that should be understood intuitively. This carries a biological price. The exhaustion of translating emotions into a dead language far exceeds the fatigue found in healthy relationships. The manipulator's goal is to make the energy cost of raising any issue astronomically high. Eventually, the victim realizes that any attempt to communicate leads to physical and mental depletion, resulting in a default to silence. Attrition succeeds when behavioral compliance is achieved through sheer exhaustion. The end state of this dynamic is a victim defined by total silence and cognitive depletion. Misinterpretation and attrition work together to engineer a trap that uses the victim's own desire for understanding against them. Breaking the cycle requires a clinical framework known as radical acceptance. In this context, it is the clinical acknowledgement of an objective, unchangeable reality regarding the partner's behavior. This involves accepting the fact that you cannot teach a language to a system that is fundamentally committed to misunderstanding you. Stopping the drain on your cognitive reserves requires abandoning the search for the perfect combination of words. The manipulator's confusion should no longer be viewed as a deficit that requires your help. It is a highly effective operational weapon. The only logical response to a dead language and weaponized misunderstanding is to stop translating and cut the wire.